Hey everyone, so I can be in class today. I'm going to teach you the hard, fast rules of commas while I'm gone though. So you're still going to learn something really important for good writers, okay? I'm going to take you through what the items you need before you actually start this process. You're going to need your grammar notebook. Check on the outside. There's a difference between your writing and your grammar, alright? Some of the other stuff in your grammar notebooks is like our parts of speech foldable, some other things like that. Make sure you have the right notebook. You're also going to need glue, which is in the back of the room, scissors, a pencil, and some handouts, but the substitute should give you those handouts as well. Once you get all those items you need, at the top of your fresh blank page, you're going to write your I can statement. And our I can statement for learning these rules is I can know and apply comma rules in my writing. So go ahead, pause the video. Your handout, you should just go around the outside, the black solid line. It actually tells you what rule you're going to use for each sentence, so don't cut that off, but just make it cozy and fit in your notebook. So we're going to break down the rules a little bit. I'm going to give you a little explanation so you're not just kind of gluing it in and kind of shutting it and not knowing what it means. So our first rule is, do you use a comma to separate 3 or more items or elements in a series? This is one I'm sure that your other teachers have talked about. We just want to touch on it and review it real quick. So, an example would have been, I ate pork, comma, potatoes, comma, and bread. Okay, since there's pork, potatoes, and bread, you're going to want to separate those because they're in a series. Alright, rule number 2. Do you use a comma between 2 adjectives? Everyone should know what an adjective is. By now, an adjective describes a noun, helps describe that noun. Between 2 adjectives when the word and could be used, okay? So our example is Jason is a handsome, comma, charming boy. We could actually use the word and. We could say Jason is a handsome and charming boy, but in this instance we want to just use a comma because there's 2 adjectives. Alright, rule number 3. Do you use a comma before and after a word or phrase that renames a noun, okay? So what it's talking about renaming the noun is just a fancy wording for, it's giving more information about that noun, okay? So it's saying George, which is our noun, my oldest brother has red hair. The reason we call it renaming is because we could take George out and it would still make sense. It would be my oldest brother has red hair, okay? So we want to offset that with the commas because actually if we took it out it would still make sense either way. Alright, so if it's renaming that noun, you offset it with those commas. Rule number 4. Do use a comma when a sentence begins with an introductory word. Okay? Some examples of those introductory words that you might see is as well, yeah, therefore, example, or on the other hand. It's also what we worked on with parts of speech with interjections. Those would be the same kind of thing. So an example would be like, yes, you can stay up an extra hour. When we read that, we do a natural pause, so that's where we put our comma. So it's yes, comma, you could stay up an extra hour. Rule number 5. Alright, do you use a comma before and after a word? Use as an interrupter. So usually it's really rude to interrupt people. However, in sentences we can interrupt all we want. The only rule is you have to use a comma. So we would say the dog, and our interrupter word would be however, so we have 2 commas to offset it, still needs to be taken outside. Okay? Could we get rid of the however and it still makes sense? The dog still needs to be taken outside? Yep. But if we use that interrupting word, we have to offset it with a comma. Remember, before and after. Rule number 6. This is one that you also should already know. We're just going to review it just in case your brain forgot. So rule number 6, do you use a comma between a city and a state and after the state if the sentence continues, okay? So this is a true fact about me. I was born in Iowa City, Iowa. Notice my comma between the city and the state. And then my sentence is continuing. So I need to put that other comma right after Iowa, after my state, over 22 years ago. Okay, so that one's kind of complicated. I'm going to go through that example again. I was born in Iowa City, so that's my city, so I need a comma. Then my state, Iowa, I need another comma because my sentence is going on. Okay. Rule 7. Do use use a comma to separate the day of the month from the year and after the year. Okay? So we moved to Texas on February 29th. So we have our comma between the day and the year. 2000. And then we need that extra comma because our sentence is still continuing. So we need to have 2000 comma and have lived there since. Okay, so you want to use that comma to separate the day of the month and the year and after the year as well. Don't worry about 8 and 9, you can read them over. However, I'm going to try to teach those more when I get back because they're a little more complicated than the rest. You are now a comma professional, congratulations. If you want to go back through or while you were going, you can highlight what you thought was important. Remember, highlighters aren't colors though. Highlight what you think is important. Then you're going to get a handout from the adult in the room, okay? And that handout's going to tell you what rules apply to which sentences, and you try to figure them out yourself. So this is an independent task, all right? You are all awesome, and you are all comma professionals, so you should do great. Thank you very much.